Okay, Mayor, we're ready to get going whenever you are.
All right, well, we will go ahead and call this meeting to order and look for any public comment in the room before we go to closed session.
Actually, Mayor, can I just do a really quick roll call? Councilmember Robbins.
Here.
Councilmember Cregan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wallace.
Here.
Mayor Bass.
Here.
And Councilmember Middlebrook is absent.
All right, so with that, we will look for public comment in the room. Seeing none, we will go to Zoom.
We have no attendees via Zoom, Mayor.
All right, with that, we will move into closed session. All right, we will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Before we do, we will hear instruction on how the public may access Spanish interpretation.
Thank you, Mayor. The following message will repeat in Spanish. We are offering live interpretation in Spanish via our Zoom platform. To access our Spanish channel, press the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen, where you will see a globe icon. Choose Spanish. If you're joining via Zoom smartphone app, select your language by clicking More, or the three dots at the bottom of your screen, select Language Interpretation and choose Spanish. Bienvenidos, estamos ofreciendo interpretación en español en vivo y en directo durante nuestra sesión en la plataforma Zoom. Para tener acceso a interpretación, oprime el icono del globo terráqueo al pie de su pantalla y seleccione Spanish o español según su formato. Si está uniéndose vía Zoom en su teléfono inteligente, seleccione los tres puntitos al pie de su pantalla, elija Interpretación de idiomas y pulse Spanish o español según su formato. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Mayor. Back to you.
Great, thank you. With that, we'll move to our land acknowledgement. The City of South Lake Tahoe acknowledges the lands we occupy today are the lands in the home of the Washishu, the people from here known today as the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California, a sovereign nation. Since the beginning of time and for thousands of years before the arrival of any other people, the Washoe lived here and cared for this place, with values and intention that we can all learn from. On behalf of the City Council, I would like to acknowledge, thank, and honor the indigenous Washoe tribal communities that are the past, present, and future stewards of the Lake Tahoe Basin. With that, we'll move to the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, and Ms. Blankenship, can we get the roll call?
Yeah. Councilmember Robbins.
Here.
Councilmember Cregan.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wallace.
Here.
Mayor Bass.
Here.
And Councilmember Middlebrook is absent today.
All right, and Ms. Stroud, do we have a closed session report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had one item on closed session this morning, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation in the case of South Lake Tahoe Property Owners Group versus City of South Lake Tahoe, and there was no reportable action.
Great, thank you. With that, we will go ahead and move on to our proclamation. This will be recognizing the Youth Homeless Outreach Prevention Education, and this will be Ms. Carrie Chapman from Tahoe Youth and Family Services. Whereas November is now recognized as Youth Homelessness Outreach, Prevention, and Education Month, previously known as National Runaway Prevention Month, and whereas between 1.6 million and 2.8 million young people experience homelessness in a single year. These youths come from diverse backgrounds, but they all share one commonality. Their home environments are unsafe and unhealthy. A significant percentage of homeless youth have experienced physical, sexual, and/or emotional abuse, and they are often re-victimized and exploited while living on the streets. And whereas the future of our nation is closely tied to how we value and support our youth, it is vital to create and provide opportunities that enable young people to acquire the knowledge, skills, and abilities they need to thrive. This includes access to quality education, housing programs, and supportive services that foster personal growth and community engagement. And whereas when we collaborate, we can effectively address the situations that contribute to youth homelessness. It is important to encourage adults to serve as mentors and role models for young people, helping them navigate available resources and fostering safe, healthy, and constructive choices. And whereas Tahoe Youth and Family Services works diligently in increasing public awareness, advocating on behalf of, and providing hope to vulnerable young individuals within the community through essential support services, housing, and counseling to address the needs of these young people. And now, therefore, the City Council of the City of South Lake Tahoe does hereby proclaim November 2024 as Youth Hope Month in South Lake Tahoe and calls upon all citizens to join in preventing and curtailing youth homelessness in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. With that, actually, we will have one small change to our agenda. Item number 16 is actually going to be a public hearing and not regular unfinished business, but it will stay as item 16. So just wanted to make that announcement. And with that, we will go ahead and move on to our presentation. This is going to be a radon presentation by
Actually,
Mr.
we have public communication first, Mayor.
So sorry, excuse me, skipped over that. We will move on to public communication. This is the public's opportunity to speak on any topic not listed on this agenda. Comments shall be limited to 4 minutes, and in accordance with the Brown Act, the City Council cannot deliberate or vote on any matter raised under public communications, but may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed. So with that, we will go ahead and open up public comment for anybody in the room that would like to speak on something not on today's agenda. All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and open up our Zoom platform.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on anything not on today's agenda. I do see one hand raised. Mr. Dallab. Mr. Dallab?
Hello, sorry about that.
It's okay.
I wanted to talk about two quick things. First of all, I wanted to thank Christy Cregan, and if John Friegert is out there, wanted to thank them both for their service over the last term. And the other thing is very esoteric, but just wanted to bring it up in this forum. I recently went to the Crescent V shopping center where the old Rayleigh is going to be the Target. And I had a business meeting that lasted too long and picked up a ticket. And it was surprising to me that the ticket was issued by the city of South Lake Tahoe. I went back and saw the resolution that was passed in 2022, and I think that this should be revisited. It just smells bad that a private police force on private property is enforcing public, has the force of law of a public ticket. I feel like this piece of property, if it's a private lot, should be treated like any other private lot. They can either tow my car, or they can issue a private ticket, or if the city wants to get into a special arrangement with them, that's fine. But a city employee should be issuing parking tickets there, not a private police force issuing public citations that are processed privately. Now, I was able to get an administrative review through the third-party company and get the ticket dismissed as a one-time courtesy, which is great. But it just feels weird that in this one particular lot, in this one particular place, a private police force is issuing public tickets that are reviewed privately. So just wanted to bring that up and see if that 2022 resolution should be reviewed. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you. There's no additional public comments, Mayor.
All right, with that, we will go ahead and move on to our city commission reports. Any city commissioners? Yes, Ms. Thomas.
Good morning, Mayor Bass and council members. In your packet on the consent agenda, you have Mr. Stark's annual commission report, and I just wanted to bring forward a few things, which are that the department is significantly busier than it has been in my experience with the department, and quite a few things have happened. Last year at this time, we were discussing the lack of lifeguards and needing to rebuild the swim program and other programs up to the point where they were pre-pandemic. And so this year, swim lessons are now offered year-round, and that the department has been successful in hiring lifeguards, and that's almost completely taken care of. So that's a big effort that the staff put in and has been really successful. The other thing is that there's also been an increase in programming, which people were asking for. There's many kids programs, more yoga, improv and singing classes, senior classes like the Silver Striders, and the department is working to meet the objective of this multi-generational programming already before we get started with the new rec center, which is another big thing that we have going on this year. The Parks Foundation was established to support the new facility, and they have a full board with 8 people, and they have received 100% funding for the play-space equipment, but are still looking for donations for swimming pool items and things like that. So the Parks Foundation is also being very active They had a Night Monsters event and many other things. So I just wanted to give a little update.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Thomas. And yes, it is so great to see all that's happening in Parks and Rec. I'm hearing it all throughout the community, and so just kudos, great work to all of you.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, Mr. Robbins.
Yeah, I'm also thrilled about the lifeguard recruitment. We live on a lake, surrounded by lakes, so swim lessons for children are a public safety matter as well. How many, if any, outstanding positions for lifeguards remain? I'm reading in the report that 12 were hired and 7 are currently in the recruitment/onboarding. I'm not sure what that means. So I'm just curious, like, how many have been filled and how many remain? So what percentage of the way along are we on filling the lifeguard roles?
So my understanding is that the lifeguard roles are not, they're not like necessarily full-time positions. And so you need people covering so you need many lifeguards. And you have a couple of head lifeguards making sure that everything runs smoothly. So if it says that there were 7 that are still in the recruitment and onboarding process, I think that is pretty much going to bring us to almost 20 lifeguards.
Okay, so the 7 is the outstanding number in the report. That's just what I was going after.
That's my understanding.
Yes, that's
And
true.
Mr. Stark.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
I just wasn't sure reading it if there was 12, 7 are on the onboarding, and there are more still to be hired.
Yeah,
But the
so-
7 is the outstanding, still to be filled number.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
oh, yeah, there. Here we go.
Yeah, we almost have 20 lifeguards on staff for a pool that size. 20 lifeguards is sufficient for year-round programming, so.
So we're more than halfway towards our goal at the moment then.
For the current facility, yes.
Correct.
For the new facility coming, we're gonna need more lifeguards, and we're gonna continue our recruitment.
How many more do you anticipate we'll need? Because the facility's coming on in the next year.
We're still working on our staffing plan, and there's
Okay.
still time, but we're actively recruiting as if we're planning for the new facility.
I mean, broad strokes, is it doubling or tripling or 50%? Like, what broadly do we think it's going to be?
Yeah, we're still working on that.
Okay.
There's still time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Do you want to bring up the business? No? Okay, all right.
Great. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Ms. Thomas. All right. Any other city commissioners that are in the room? Yes, please come forward.
Good morning, Council. My name is Erica Gonzalez. I'm the Chair of the Police Advisory Commission. I will do this in order. First, updates. We will have chairs opening up for the next session, so encouraging folks to apply to really understand how South Lake Tahoe Police Department functions. It's been a really great education opportunity. This month, we did have a police training overview by Lieutenant Doug Sintel. In that training, we learned about all the training received by SLTPD, and I would encourage folks to look at the packet. It's a pretty extensive Excel sheet that even lists hours that they all have to take by types of training, required hours, and breakdown by position. We were happy to learn that SLTPD does have higher training requirements than are mandated by the state, so that's nice. But I think what's also interesting is looking at the training from the fact that many officers hold multiple roles within the department, so then to see what the hours look like kind of exponentially if they're having to do traffic and just be a patrol officer. So there's a lot of interesting stuff there. We also wanted to make some recommendations in light of the annual report that is on agenda today. And the first is the commission fully believes in the STACS program and how it's functioning and its efficacy. It's the most successful operating on the limited budget that we have felt. We also understand that there is an increased demand by the community to increase traffic officers. To address this, we do recommend an expansion, looking at the traffic unit if it's necessary, but we do want to understand, but it is our understanding that the STACS officer position was funded from the regular staff budget as the SRO, so we wouldn't want to take away from those departments in order to be able to do the traffic unit, but we would encourage council to consider the budget to meet the community's desire for a more robust traffic unit without impacting STACS and the school resource officer. Additionally, we want to emphasize the importance of eternal wellness for the department and including continued funding to support the officer wellness. So the last thing I want to say is that while the community engagement with the Police Advisory Commission has been limited, as someone who approaches law enforcement myself with a critical eye, I want to commend Chief Stevenson for his openness to our input. He has been really proactive in working with us, and having worked with many law enforcement agencies, I appreciate the chief's authenticity in collaborating with this commission to, follow through on things that we ask for, to be more educated on, and just to hear us out when we have concerns about how things are coming along with our community. So we're now, I don't know, I guess 3 years, almost 4 years into this commission. It has been, I think that only totals us about 16 meetings, with some of those canceled. So for such a short amount of time and limited meetings, I think we've learned a lot and done a lot of education on this front. So that is what I have.
Great, thank you. Sure, Mr. Robbins.
I was going to pull the agenda item, but since we're talking about it now, this seems like a good time. So a year ago, what?
Yeah, this is a great time.
Yeah. So a year ago, we spoke about when we had the annual report. We spoke about the fact that in the then 2 years, now 3 years, the Police Advisory Commission had apparently not issued any advice. So I'm very glad to hear that there's a recommendation now for increasing funding towards traffic enforcement. That's a community problem. I'm just curious why that wasn't included in the annual report here. The report's one page, is slightly less than a page long. So it would be great to have that as a report to City Council in, written form to say, we recommend an increase in so many positions to improve traffic enforcement, because we've received that as a community, as an input from the community, that this is an important law enforcement. I'm looking for advice from the Police Advisory Commission, and I'm just wondering why it wasn't in the report.
Again, we have 4 meetings a year, so that's one of them, and I think 1 or 2 of them were canceled for lack of quorum. So if you think of only 2 meetings, and part of that conversation we had at the last commission meeting, which was which was after when the reports were due. So some of that conversation came on the meeting that was last week. So some of that was delayed in that component, and we are still also working out our own Brown Act kinks to make sure that we're properly agendized stuff so that they can be put in the report and has been discussed to be put on discussion for the next year's item.
So I'm glad you mentioned Brown Act kinks, because that was, when I talked to members of the Parks and Rec Commission, that was a problem they ran into as well, was that they had a hard time with the ability to agendize their own topics of interest. And that was a thing that they took a path of going this rather arcane, functional, but arcane bureaucratic workaround where they brought it up through a subcommittee, and then that was able to agendize, and that way they had the equivalent. They now have the equivalent of an APC item at the end of each meeting, and that way they could agendize their own topics. Are you able on the Police Advisory Commission to agendize topics of your interest so that if you receive input from the community that says, hey, traffic enforcement is the thing, or property theft is a thing we're concerned about, and we want to see more effort there, that can be agendized for discussion? Are you able to do that functionally? I would like to hear more about the Brown Act kinks you've just discussed.
It's just a learning curve, right? The Brown Act has a lot of rules and regulations on how you put something on an agenda. I'm sure all of you on council are aware that there are some kinks on when you take public comments, when you don't. Just, with only a few meetings a year, as the chair, it took me a while to get it. I finally figured out in the last meeting before this one. So it's just a learning curve,
Mr. Robbins, I think I can just answer your question about why weren't the Police Advisory Commission's asks put in the annual report, because on the last agenda, the action was receive and file. That means that they couldn't put any of the wants and asks in that annual report. So that's why Ms. Gonzalez, our chair, is here today bringing that forward to you, because it couldn't be included in the annual report.
Okay. I'm really glad to hear that there's some ideas for recommendations. I just want to make sure if you're having trouble agendizing topics, that the city's staff, resources, knowledge is leveraged so that you can unclog the bureaucratic kinks to properly agendize topics. I want to make sure that gets done efficiently. This was a problem on Parks and Rec Commission that was resolved ultimately.
Councilmember Robbins, I can let you know that the PAC at the end of each of their agenda, just like you do, can ask for something to be brought forward with the consent of an additional commissioner. So that happens at each PAC. I am the clerk to that board.
PAC?
PAC, Police Advisory Commission, PAC.
Oh, sorry, okay. So they have the equivalent of our APC agenda item as a standing item.
Well, they can add things to the agenda, and Chief Stevenson will bring them forward as time allows.
Yep. And
Okay.
we've been able to do that in the last three the last three meetings. But
Okay.
for this one, as the city clerk has mentioned, this one was just a little bit of a timing issue with the traffic one.
So the recommendations then on traffic management, when would we, broadly, do we think that the city council would receive recommendations from the Police Advisory Commission to make funding changes or to shift funding or to increase funding to those items?
I think you're kind of getting out of the scope of what a commissioner does. I think that would come from our chief, essentially. If he takes the advice from the commission, he's going to bring that back to us. So I don't know that she
Okay.
can answer funding questions. That's more to.
No, not funding, like, that's on us, but I'm saying, like, when do we think a recommendation from the PAC would come up to council?
She already has made it, so it'll come back through our chief. It'll, if that's what his move.
And to expand on that, it'll come back to the chief through me at a budget meeting, mid-year or our regular budget, and we'll evaluate those requests with the totality of every service we're supposed to offer this community.
Very nice.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other commissioners in the room? Yes, Ms. Ballard.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Ballard. I would like to thank all the city council members who created the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Commission. I think we've really proven how much our commission can help the city, its residents, and our visitors. All the murals in town, sit down, thank you. All our murals in town that have been done since our commission has been here have really helped add color and beauty to our town, especially down Highway 50 where it's looking pretty bad. The mural, blah, 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 sorry. I'm looking forward to the new art that will be happening in the spring, and I'm excited to see the new sculpture that will be coming sometime in 2025 that has accessibility things, which I love as a part of it. I plan to continue my work on the commission. I look forward to working with our new city council members, and I appreciate Christy Cregan and John Friedrich for their work. For some of the people who don't understand why we should have an arts commission, Arts Commission boosts the city's economy by creating jobs, attracting tourists, supporting local businesses, raising property values, and building pride in our community. Art commissions help create a vibrant, diverse economy that benefits everyone. Thank you for what you've done in the council for supporting us. It's been wonderful working with John, and glad to be one of the ones who got this commission going. And we still have some ways to go, but I'm really excited of all the work we've done. So I just want to thank you all. Yeah, that's it.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Ballard. It is so good for what's happening with the Act Commission, so thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any other commissioners in the room that would like to give a, yes, Ms. Eastra.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Xistra, and I am the co-chair of the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Committee. I just wanted to come here today and once again, like Stacy, thank you all for all of the commitment that you have put towards our committee. We have made big steps recently in creating an outline for our master plan to really move forward with the development and our goals within our committee. Over the past 2 years since I've been a member of the committee, we have distributed micro grants that have enabled us to do a lot of murals around town, as well as to do our Pride sidewalks, and we are looking forward to our $100,000 project that is coming down the pipeline for spring. Like Ms. Ballard mentioned, that will be an all-inclusive, accepting art installation that's over in the Lakeview Commons, and that's very special to us that we could provide art that's not only for people that can view it, but also people that can feel it and experience it in different ways. Towards the future, we're really looking towards, right now I've been working with members of the city, well, Jessica's here, and John on our equity statement for the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Committee. And that has moved forward very well. By comparing statements from other cities, we've been able to come up with what we think would be the best statement for our community. And recently we had an art mural go up down at Lakeview Commons that was for our Indian tribe, our Washoe Indian tribe. That was very special for us. We've been doing a lot of things throughout the last 2 years when I've been involved, and I look forward to doing a lot more. And I want to take this opportunity to thank John and his team that have been dedicated to us. Our meetings, we are discussing art, and for those of you that are passionate about art like we are, that can sometimes be time consuming. So it has been a real neat experience for me to be involved in such a cool committee where we're discussing art, the future of our city, equity statements, a lot of things that the South Lake Tahoe community is passionate about, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. All right, any other commissioners in the room? All right, seeing none, we are going to go ahead and move on to our presentations. This is going to be a radon presentation, and this will be Mr. Jeremy Harrison, I believe, or I don't see that's our staff member, but I'm not sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had to come up here and introduce Mr. Miner. Mr. Miner, Jeff Miner is here presenting on radon-resistant construction and would like the council to consider his presentation. Thank you.
Council members and mayor, thank you for allowing me to advocate for a radon ordinance in South Lake Tahoe. I'd first like to introduce Cameron Depok, Dopke, from Environmental Inspections, who actually is a radon mitigator, and if you have questions about the actual fixing of buildings, he can answer those questions. I want to start by just getting a show of hands. How many people in the room have tested their houses for radon? Have a show of hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. At the end of my presentation, the rest of you might want to consider testing your houses. Here. Let me see how this thing works. All right. My name is Jeff Miner. I've been in town since the early 1970s. My wife and I, Karen, right here, started Grassroots Natural Foods. I built my house in 1980, and I didn't realize I had radon problem till I tested it in 2004 and realized I'd been spending 24 years living in a high radon house and did not know about it. So that got me to take some courses, become certified as a mitigator in California, and I was able to fix my house. And then I opened a business called Radon at Tahoe, where I sold little tester kits and spoke for various groups and tried to advocate for radon awareness. We're talking about Appendix F of the IRC, the International Residential Code. All right, what is radon? It's a gas. It's a byproduct of uranium and radium. Uranium and radium are heavy metals. They stay in the ground. They don't bother us. Radon is a gas. It migrates through the soil. And if you happen to build your house over a vent in the soil, you will have high radon in your house. Your neighbor may build their house over not an area that there's no vent, and they won't have high radon. So really the only way to know is to test your house. How does it get into the house? It's called the stack effect. Heat rises, it creates a vacuum, and the radon is actually drawn into the house. How does it get into your lungs and cause a problem? The radon isotopes have a negative charge. They attach to particles of dust. You breathe them in. When they decompose, the radioactive decomposition, it sends off an alpha charge. If that charge happens to hit a cell, it can damage the cell and make it more open for lung cancer. A Surgeon General classifies cigarette smoking as a class 1 carcinogen. He also classifies radon as a class 1 carcinogen. In fact, radon is second to smoking to generating lung cancer. A little history in South Lake Tahoe. I don't know if you remember in 2007, Zephyr Cove Elementary School, parents refused to take their kids to school because Zephyr Cove had high radon. They had to bring in people from out of town to fix it, and they finally mitigated Zephyr Cove. In 2006, the California, through the Department of Health, Public Health, there's a radon program. They gave money to the California Geological Survey, and the first study of counties in California was the Lake Tahoe area. Lake Tahoe Unified School District tested their classrooms. They had high radon. They still have high radon, but the circulation of air, the heating and the cooling, forced the radon down. It actually causes an anti-pressure and keeps the radon out. My personal opinion is Lake Tahoe Unified Schools should retest and mitigate their buildings. The supervisor's building for U.S. Forest Service had this beautiful building built in 2004. Unfortunately, the design of it circulated air from the plenum, which is similar to a basement, and it brought radon up into the entire unit. They had to bring people in from Delaware to mitigate it at a high expense and a certain amount of embarrassment. I've spoken to the city council. I've spoken to El Dorado supervisors, Turk, Sierra Club, Cancer Society, did work at Pinewald condominiums, and most recently worked with Barton Hospital to develop my newborn radon program, which I copied from Pennsylvania, and into a nice slick brochure that we could hand out to every mother leaving the hospital with their new baby, a testing kit, a free testing kit from the state of California. It was a very nice brochure they helped me develop, but unfortunately they canceled the project because some of the doctors thought the patients would be nervous if they had high radon but didn't have the money to fix it. So we never got that program to work. What brought me here today was workforce housing and the Lake Tahoe City College dorms. 2 large new buildings being built in this town. Lake Tahoe Community College dorms has radon mitigation built in. The Sugar Pine Village does not, which could create a problem. We have 40% of our houses have high radon. This thing could have high radon, and if they had to fix it, it would be over budget and somewhat of an embarrassment. If you look at the radon map in 1980 by the EPA, red is high radon risk. The Midwest and the East Coast have the highest radon risk in the country. This is a study by every county in every state. Look at California. California only had 2 counties with high risk radon. El Dorado is moderate. Take a look at Iowa. 71% of the houses in Iowa have high radon. The difference between Iowa and California is Iowa has 3 million people. California has 39 million people. So if you look at a chart of cancer, lung cancer deaths related to radon, California is number 1. Iowa is way down on the very end of the list. It's because of the combination of people and radon. So high number of people, high number of radon gives you the worst outcome. South Lake Tahoe, we have that area, that map you're looking at, and this one here. Our city is like the highest radon, big blob. That's where all of our people live. So it's not just out in the rural areas. We have a problem right where the people live. If you look at some of the other maps that the California Geological Survey did, here's a big blob of red in the Palos Verdes area of Los Angeles. If you look at Santa Cruz, they have a lot of red areas of radon, but they're in rural areas, not where people are living. Santa Barbara has a problem because down on the coast, that's where people live. Ventura, which was one of the ones in California that was high in the 1980 map, very little actual radon based on California Geological Survey. But Lake Tahoe, people and radon, both in the same spot. Douglas County across, also high in radon. Zephyr Cove was the highest city in Nevada for percentage of homes with high radon. If you look at so that's geology. If you look at the tests, well, you can take a test. Until 2016, state of California kept a database of all tests in California. Out of 60,000 tests, 11% of California houses had high radon. Out of 1,700 tests in South Lake Tahoe, 41% had high radon. How do you fix a house? You put a barrier cloth down, you run a pipe, a perforated pipe under it, you run it to a fan on the outside of the house, you vent the pipe up to the roof, and it expels the radon. I'll come back to this. This is real estate. The EPA tells you exactly how to build radon out, which is what this Appendix AF says. You put the fan in the attic. It's not on the outside. You run the pipe up the inside of the house. So it's nothing is on the outside. And it's all done as part of the plumbing. And if you do it ahead of time, you don't even have to go into crawl space because you would lay down your radon barrier before you put the first floor on. So you're not crawling in a floor space. You're doing it while you're standing up. It's much easier and cheaper to build radon out than to fix a house. There's other appendices for large buildings like I was talking about, but what we're talking about today is single family and double family residences. That's what Appendix AF addresses. I've given you a list of 154 other cities and counties that have done exactly the same thing. So again, it requires radon resistance new construction on all new single and double family residences. And why should we do it? Radon is dangerous. We've got a lot of it here. We have a high population. That's the combination. And it's simple to do. And testing ensures that it works. So be a hero and adopt Appendix AF. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Miner. Anybody on council that has any questions? All right, thank you for the presentation and the good information, and yeah. Let's see, so with that, we will go ahead and move on to our consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, we should take public comment on that item.
All right, anybody in the room that would like to give public comment on the radon presentation? All right, seeing none, we will move to Zoom.
We'll open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on today's presentation. No public comments, Mayor.
Great, thanks. Moving on to our consent agenda. Is there anybody on council that would like to pull any items?
Yes. I would like to pull number, stand by 1 moment, 13. quarterly update on affordable housing waitlist.
Okay, great. All right, so minus item 13, we will go ahead and open the consent agenda up for public comment for anybody in the room. Yes, Mr. Mosier.
Good morning, Ed Moser, South Lake Tahoe. Yes, I'd like to speak on number 7 and number 9, please. Number 7, which has to do with the Police Advisory Commission Annual Report. Like first, just to read an email that I sent to the Tahoe Tribune to Laney Griffo, they're the editor there, on October 28th, said, did the Tahoe Daily Tribune ever report on the $4.5 million settlement with the family of Chris Jackson by the city of South Lake Tahoe that was announced at the February 14, 2023 City Council meeting by City Attorney Heather Stroud? Chris was shot and killed on June 15, 2015 by South Lake Tahoe police officer Joshua Kling. South Tahoe Now, Paula Peterson, published the story that afternoon, and I looked for it in the Tribune in following issues. I don't recall finding it. If you can find it in your archives, could you please email it to me? I still haven't gotten a response from her or even forwarded that to all of you here. So, you know, part of this is you, with the commission here, is I don't see it as having really accomplished much in 3 or 4 years, if anything at all. You know, the members, as she stated here just a little while ago, you know, they've learned some things. But one thing I would like to bring up, since it is an advisory commission, and at the time I believe I said that what you really needed was a police review board, not an advisory commission. And Lori London, who was a public defender, of course, wasn't seated and should have been the first one seated, because I think she had the most information or contact and knowledge of the police department and how it works, being a public defender. But of course, they didn't want her on there. But anyway, as an advisory commission, Juneteenth was given to the police department as a paid holiday, and I said at the time that it should just be a holiday, but not a paid holiday. Long story shorter, John Friedrich, who was a council member at the time, he suggested that, well, then what they do, because I said it was pretty much an insult to the black community to do that, and because of what has transpired over the years. Mr. Friedrich suggested that then an educational program be put in place for that day. And to date, haven't heard anything. I'm sure we would have read about it on South Tahoe Now if they did. But, you know, we'd like to know if anything ever was put in place, and maybe the Police Advisory Commission here can advise and suggest that they do something for Juneteenth, put in some sort of an educational program. That's number 7. Number 9 has to do with the funding transfer for the Upper Bijou Park Watershed Restoration Project, and getting money again, California Conservancy, and transfer money. Part of this here is, in this, it says in the background, one piece of the Upper Watershed project is the Rockwood to Blackwood Drainage Improvements project, which will reduce flooding on Woodbine, Rockwood Road, Blackwood Road, and in the Heavenly Valley Estates Mobile Home Park. I've been up there numerous times, and through this whole process of this project for the last several years, summer, winter, was kind of a joke. Actually, somebody smashed a hole in over the drainage pipe in the back of the Knights Inn Motel there, so the water backed up and flooded, which it did flood anyway in extreme cases, but that sort of exacerbated the problem. Also, our former IT supervisor, Anthony Della Ripa's father's house up at the top there, ended up spending some $500,000 for, which I objected to, and this is how things are done here. He couldn't sell it for several years because it was supposedly flooding. That money should have actually been used, because the problem was there was absolutely no drainage above it. And so that money really should be used to put drainage in, which you're doing now and having to do to alleviate flooding in that area. So that was $500,000 that was just really pissed away. That should have been used for this project. Also, like to know how many gallons of water Heavenly, if anybody here knows, and can find out how many gallons of water Heavenly pumps up. Supposedly, they have a pipeline pumping up for snowmaking. So if that being the case, that water comes back down and makes the flooding problems even worse. And they should contribute to this project and alleviating the problems there. Because if you look at the creek there and where the water, it's not even really a creek, it's a little drainage, tiny drainage ditch. And they only put in an 18-inch pipe originally to alleviate it. So it's really not a creek down at the bottom. But Heavenly, I think if they're pumping millions of gallons or hundreds of thousands of gallons up there and it's melting and coming back down, then get them to contribute and help solve the problem there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mosier. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment on the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, we will go to Zoom.
We'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on today's consent agenda. I will note for the record that we did receive and I distributed a public comment on item number 9 from the concerned citizens of South Lake Tahoe, and there are no additional public comments, Mayor.
Great, thank you, Ms. Blankenship. All right, with that, we will look for a motion minus item 13.
I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented minus item number 13.
Second.
All right, we can vote.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Great, all right, so now we will move to item 13. This is a quarterly update on the affordable housing wait list. Mr. Robbins, you pulled this, so would you like a staff report or you have questions?
Let's start with the staff report, and then I have questions.
All right.
Good morning, City Mayor and City Council members. My name is Lydia Zuniga with Development Services Department. Before you this morning is an update on the affordable housing wait list. On March 28, 2023, staff was directed to bring an item before City Council to discuss the number of people actively waiting for affordable housing. Before the City Council is the updated wait list for the 8 affordable housing properties. For the third quarter, we show a total of 929 people on the list, which is a very small increase from 891. The Sugar Pine Village Affordable Housing Project recently opened up the doors to the first 68 units for Phase 1A. As of October 18th, 11 units are currently occupied and 18 people have moved in. The total number of units soon to be completed occupied is 57. As stated on the report, 600 people are currently on the Sugar Pine Village interest list. It is important to note that until the people qualify for a unit and are accepted, we won't have an exact number and/or the wait list for Sugar Pine Village won't be finalized. And as such, the interest list and the number of applicants that have applied may change as those units are being built and the applications are being processed. Also, during the City Council meeting of November 21st, 2023, Council requested additional information be added to this report regarding the Lease to Locals program. The program started in late 2021, and we are now almost at the end of the third year. And as of October 18th, the total people housed is 125, including children. The total number of grants provided is 51 so far. The total grant amount spent, including the administrative fee, is $488,490. The total cost per person is around $3,900. Number of rental months that the Lease to Locals program has provided to date, not including months remaining on active leases, is 776 months. This report serves as a quarterly update to City Council to receive and file. Thank you for your time. Staff is happy to answer any questions you may have.
Great, thank you so much. Mr. Robbins.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify a couple things. So the 600 people that are on the interest list, when you mentioned that the interest list is broader than the wait list, so they go from the interest list, then they have to go through the qualification process, but that's the qualification to get on the wait list, correct?
That's correct.
So that's not qualification and accept, when you say qualification and acceptance, that's not necessarily acceptance into a unit, that's acceptance onto the wait list for the unit.
I'm sorry, say that again?
When you say that they have to qualify, and you mentioned in your comment, in your testimony, that you had to qualify for accept and be accepted, I just want to clarify that that's acceptance to the wait list, not acceptance to a unit.
I'm going to have Mr. Thomas answer that for you. Thank
Okay.
you.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you said correctly is all.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Councilmember Robbins, I can clarify that. So the wait list was developed throughout the construction process.
Sorry, the wait list or the interest list?
I'm sorry, the interest list was developed throughout the construction process. That was an interest list. Now, at the time that the application process opened up, those folks on the wait list, the interest list, were notified. The application process is now open. It was up to them to choose to apply or not.
Right.
From the interest list. So the interest list includes everyone who signed up to be notified when the application process started. The application process, there's been roughly 300 plus applications received. Those are being sorted through, processed, determination of who qualifies for which unit. As Ms. Zuniga said, that's what's happening right now. As such, the wait list does not exist because that is being kind of developed as the applications get processed, and it isn't known who's on the wait list yet because all the units are not filled, and because it's a linear process, first come, first serve, you can't determine who's on the wait list until you determine the status of everyone before that person, for example.
So basically, they're taking first come, first serve from people who apply to the wait list from the interest list, and then processing them, and then a handful so far have moved into units, or have been accepted into units, but they haven't fully filled the wait list from the interest list yet.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
Okay, when do we expect that, broadly, when do we expect that they will have filled out the wait list? Right, because they've occupied 11 units so far, and you said there's 57 in total that are soon to be occupied. So that's, I guess, is that the idea that 57 have moved from the interest list to the wait list accepted into units? But they're processing that sort of just in order. So when do we think the wait list, which is the intermediary step, will be filled out?
The property management company is working to have the first phase, which is a total of 68 units.
Right.
The 57 refers to the remaining, by the end of the month.
Okay. And of the 939 people that are on the list of other properties right now, you mentioned there are 100 or so are duplicative. So is that 939, is it 1,039 then minus from that you get 939, or is it 939 minus about 100 for 839 unique individuals? What is the number approximately of unique individuals?
It would be around the 800 number, 939 minus the 100.
Gotcha. And then have we taken, and you said the wait list for Sugar Pines has not yet been made available to, not the interest list, but the wait list for Sugar Pines has not yet been made available to us. Is that correct?
Yes, and again, it's not available, it doesn't exist because the units are being filled up from the application pool.
Oh, so they're going direct from the interest list, processing one, if it fills, then they fill the unit, and so they're just going through that, so they haven't established a wait list in the middle yet because they haven't filled up all the units yet?
That's correct.
Okay, and so you think by the end of the month, they'll have reached because they're already at 57, so they'll have reached the 68, and then they'll start filling up the wait list off of the interest list.
That is the goal, and it wouldn't be the interest list, it would be the people that
Who
have
applied
submitted.
from the interest list, correct.
Correct.
So you go from the interest list to apply to the wait list, but you only establish the wait list once the units that are currently available are filled, and that'll be the end of the month. And at the end of the month, we'll have, is it correct that we will have that list so that we can add it to the 939 and deconflict unique individuals? That's why I'm asking.
Zach, if I may, it's my understanding that that wait list will not be generated until all phases are complete for the Sugar Pine project.
Right, so because this is being built in 4 phases, as the next phases come online, those that are in essence, qualified, but there is no unit available, can be assigned a future unit if it's available in the next phase, so
I see.
forth.
So they'll be, that won't be considered a wait list, they'll be like pending a future unit
They're
list.
basically pending, yeah, they're not really
Okay.
waiting for something to be vacated, it's just coming online.
Okay.
So
Clarify,
All right.
like, the
Interesting.
affordable housing waitlist table that's in the staff report will not show Sugar Pine until all phases are complete.
Which is another 2 or 3 years at least. Okay.
yeah, in the meantime, we will have the data of number of applications being processed, things
Yeah,
like
okay.
that. Yeah.
Got it. Do we know, and then this is a corollary then, do we know of the 600 people on the interest list, do we know about how many are duplicative of the 939 as well?
We don't have those names. We don't have access to those names legally. Logic, one could assume that
least
there's
some.
a lot of people. If I'm waiting on one list, I'll probably put my name on the new project, but one could assume that there's duplication names, yeah.
But we really won't know how many.
We don't know.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. If that's it, actually, just one question. This list too could be, it's a statewide, anybody, it's not just South Lake residents, correct? Because this being a state project? And do we know that how many people are residents of the city yeah?
Yeah, we've received, Mayor, some preliminary data from the property management company. It's around 80% of those on the interest list have South Lake addresses, which is kind of the number we've been given.
Great.
Or 75 to 80% or so.
That's actually a good question. I just want to follow up on that. We do, I believe, have an upcoming agenda item on prioritizing affordable housing for local residents preference for affordable housing. That was placed on the agenda a couple years ago, and that's coming up fairly soon, correct?
Yeah, a few months back, council authorized the contract with a consultant to assist us in doing a disparate housing impact analysis, and that's scheduled to come back to council in January.
With that, if that report comes back favorable or appropriate, then we will be able to essentially restrict that list to people who live in the area or work in the area or similar we'll have a range of options, I believe, in order to restrict that list to local residents so that it's not coming statewide. Is that broadly correct? If that's what the report presents suitable findings.
It's my understanding, it wouldn't preclude people from applying for units, but it gives priority preference to those who
qualification.
live or work in our region.
Got it. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thomas. So with that, we will move to public comment for item number 13. If there's anybody in the room that would like to give public comment, seeing none, we will go ahead and open up our Zoom platform.
We'll open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 13. No public comments, Mayor.
Great, thank you. With that, we will look for a motion.
It's receive and file, Mr. Mayor.
Oops, excuse me. All right, receive and file, so we are good to move to the public hearings. This is item number 14, which is a financing agreement with Bank of America Public Capital Corp. For energy upgrade project equipment acquisition. And Ms. Tika Marova.
Morning, Mayor Bess, members of the City Council, Olga Tikhamirova, Director of Finance, and the item before you today is financing agreement with Bank of America, Public Capital Corp. Was for energy upgrade project equipment acquisition. And just by way of background, on October 22nd, City Council approved a contract with Wilden Energy Solutions for energy upgrades contingent upon the city securing financing. And the scope of the project is on the slide. Some of the major items in the project are ice arena chiller replacement, micro turbine refurbishment and relocation, roof replacement also for ice arena, as well as 2 parking canopy solar panels at motor pool and police department. In anticipation of approval of this contract, back in August 2024, the city discussed with the city's municipal financial advisor, PFM, different financing options available to the city for this project. We discussed lease revenue bonds, bank loan, and California infrastructure. The total cost of the project is $11,985,000, and it includes $570,000 in city-controlled contingency. To fund this project, we will utilize the existing Affordable Housing Sustainable Communities grant of $2 million. The city will contribute $2,097,426 from the general fund and designated reserves to limit the amount of being financed, and the city will finance the remaining portion of $7,887,000 using the bank loan. As from the discussion with financial advisor, bank loan was the most favorable to the city. It's the least expensive, more flexible option. And as a result of our solicitation for bank quotes, what we received was Bank of America Public Capital Corp submitted the lowest bid at 4.055% for 15-year term. There was no additional bank fees that BOA proposed, such as legal counsel fees or miscellaneous closing costs. And also, they were the only bank to propose the lease or the loan to be structured as appropriation lease, which did not require the city to encumber assets as a collateral for financing. The equipment that is being financed by itself will serve as the collateral. After negotiations, the city settled on a 16-year term in effort to generate projected net savings in most years the loan that will be outstanding. The principal amount will be $7,973,000 less the issuance cost of approximately $85,000. The interest rate is the same as for the proposed 15-year term. Lease payments will be structured proportionally to the expected gross energy cost savings. The agreement will allow for partial prepayment with potential receipt of Inflation Reduction Act monies or any other energy credits that the city might be receiving. And the payoff without penalty will be allowed in 10 years, which is after October 1, 2034. As I previously mentioned, the way the debt service will be structured is proportionally to expected energy savings, and it will vary from $378,000 to $1.2 million at the end of the term. The debt service will begin on October 1, 2025, which is in 12 months. Again, Wilden's proposal projects energy savings as well as maintenance and operation savings, new renewable energy savings, and direct investment tax credit that will partially or fully offset the lease payment. On the screen, we see the 16-year payment structure for the lease financing. At the end of the 16-year term, the generated net savings are projected to be approximately $1.6 million. However, no guarantee that these savings will be achieved in the timing or amounts as projected by Wilden, and regardless of whether the city realized these savings or not, the city would be obligated to make these debt service payments. On the screen, we show the cash flow pro forma. This is the PowerPoint slide that was previously presented by Ms. Letton on October 22nd. This has been updated with the actual debt service lease payments for 15 years plus the construction period. And as we can see in the yellow column, cumulative savings, we're projecting approximately $1.6 million in year 15 after the construction period. And this includes the anticipated tax credits from the energy federal government subsidy. After 35 years, we expect to realize cumulative savings of approximately $28 million. Just quickly on the bank loan structure, City previously entered into master lease agreement with Bank of America Public Capital Corp in April 2023 to finance snow removal equipment, this agreement allowed for additional equipment schedules. Today, this time, the city will be approving and executing equipment schedule number 1, energy services equipment. And financing schedule, today we're approving documents, and the financing will close on November 19th. As part of the agenda today, there are a couple of additional items. A second resolution to approve budget appropriations for now actual dollar amounts and the city's contribution of $2.1 million. Additionally, on the agenda is MOU, Memorandum of Understanding between the city, Bank of America, and Wilden. And during negotiations, the lender, the Bank of America, requested to make an adjustment to Wilden's agreement to adjust the title section to allow title of the equipment to pass to the city as Wilden receives payments. And this will allow the city to grant the bank, the lender, a security interest in the equipment as it's being built. And instead of the revising the whole agreement, by way of MOU, this item will be revised and approved. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any question. Additionally, on the Zoom call, we have our municipal financial advisor, PFM, who can also answer the questions. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Tikamarova. Anybody on council with any questions? Yes, Mr. Rao.
One small, extremely inane question that I will apologize ahead for, but just in reading ahead on the materials, in less about the staff report, but in the resolution and the lease materials, Bank of America is spelled BANC.
That is correct.
And I just want to make, I get it, typos happen, not a big problem. I just want to make sure that when we pass the resolution, that doesn't make a difference.
That is correct. That's
Really?
a branch of the bank.
It's spelled okay, so that actually,
BANC, that is
even though the name of the institution is BANK.
Right.
Oh, okie dokie. I said it was a name and apologized ahead of time. That's just wanted to question about that.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Tikamarova. All right, with this, we will go ahead and open up our public comment for item number 14. Anybody in the room that would like to give public comment? All right, seeing none, we will go ahead and go to Zoom.
We'll open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 14. No comments, Mayor.
All right, great. We'll bring this back to council for a motion.
Move that we pass a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an energy facilities financing contract in the form of an equipment schedule number 1 and an escrow and account control agreement and related documents with Bank of America Public Capital Corp in the principal amount of $7,973,000 to acquire facility improvements for energy upgrade project and making required findings, and also a resolution approving fiscal year 24-25 final budget appropriations for 2024 Bank of America Public Capital Corp financing agreement proceeds and energy savings contract with Wildan.
Second.
All right, we can vote.
That motion carries. Thank you.
Great. All right. So moving on to 15. Anybody here need a break? Or are we good to
Yes,
go?
please. 5
You
minutes.
would like a break? 5 minutes. We will be. Oh, yes.
And actually, before we break, I need to recuse myself from this item due to a compensation interest, financial compensation interest in the matter. We forgot to go over my wording.
It's not out of cellophane, it's pretty good.
These are from Sugar Barn?
I see. All right, we will call this meeting back to order. We are moving on to item number 15. This is the Heavenly Area annexation, and this will be Mr. Hitchcock.
So for the record, John Hitchcock, Planning Manager. The agenda item before you is consideration of Heavenly Area annexation, which includes pre-zoning 30 parcels, amending the general plan land use figure, and adopting resolution initiating annexation proceedings for the Heavenly Area scenario, as well as amending the city code. On June 6, 2023, the council passed a motion to pursue the Heavenly annexation scenario, which encompassed the Heavenly California base. The annexation scenario was subsequently modified by council direction on November 7th, 2023. The modification expanded the annexation area to include the Heavenly Ski Resort, Van Sickle Bay State Park, and several adjacent private properties. A map depicting the annexation area is currently proposed is included on page 359 of the council agenda packet. The annexation area comprises 30 parcels, totaling approximately 2,800 acres. The majority of the parcels are held in public ownership by the U.S. Forest Service, the state of California, and the South Tahoe Public Utility District. There are private parcels included in the mix, which include a mix of vacant and developed parcels, with the Heavenly California base being the largest private parcel within the annexation area. I provided a map of the parcel ownership on page 360 of the council packet. Prior to submitting an annexation to El Dorado LAFCO, state law requires a municipality with a proposed reorganization to complete the following: pre-zone the respective territory to be annexed, and then identify the annexed territory in the general plan with proposed future land uses, and to ensure consistency between the pre-zone annexation area and the general plan. Currently, the annexation area is regulated by TRPA's regional plan, which has designated the annexation area as either conservation, recreation, or resort recreation. The TRPA land use designations are depicted on page 361 of the council agenda packet. Underlying the regional plan designation, TRP has zoned the annexation area with their planner statement zoning system, which is the zoning system that the city has also adopted. The area is zoned by TRP as either planner statement 095, planner statement 080, which are zoned as conservation, and planner statement 087, which is zone recreation. The zoning designations are depicted on page 362 of your council packet. The proposed annexation before you would not change these designations. The recommended action before the council is to pre-zone the annexation area with TRPA's planner statements. Thus, the annexation area would be pre-zoned with either conservation or recreation, and the underlying planner statements 080, 087, and 095 would apply. We would also amend the general plan land use figure LU1 to adopt the TRPA regional plan designations of conservation, recreation, and resort recreation for the annexation area, and also expand the city sphere of influence to encompass the proposed annexation area. And in addition, an amendment to the City Code Title 6, Chapter 6.55, to reference the appropriate planner statement, which is planner statement 080 and 087, which currently are not referenced by the City Code. No changes are proposed to the underlying planner statements, such as the use list or specific policies that apply to the planner statements, and thus no change in development potential is expected in the annexation area. It should also be noted that these changes will not be effective until El Dorado County LAFCO approves the proposed annexation. The city did receive 3 comment letters. One was from Himmeley Mountain Resort during the Planning Commission, at the time the Planning Commission was considering this item. The other letter, which was received to the City Council from Trans Sierra Investment, and then one from a private property owner received by Mr. Brian Duncan. Mr. Duncan's property is located adjacent to the city limits. His property is accessible from private dirt road that seems to come off Glen Road and Rocky Point Road. It's really unclear on the map that I took a look at. The property is currently located in Planner Statement 080, Kingsbury Drainage, which is zone conservation by TRPA and has a regional plan land use designation of recreation. This zoning would not change as part of the proposed annexation. That parcel will continue to be zoned as conservation, and then just to note that single family currently is a permissible use in that plan area. So the existing single family dwelling there right now is a legal conforming use and could continue to operate as a single family use. The proposed annexation is consistent with City Council's Strategic Plan Priority 5.4, Action Item Number 2, which is to analyze the desirability and feasibility of annexation of certain unincorporated areas of Delaware County into the city. If the City Council approves the pre-zone, the general plan amendment, and the code amendment, and the resolution to initiate annexation proceedings, the next step for the city is to submit a formal application to El Dorado LAFCO. Once the application is accepted, state law requires involved jurisdictions to negotiate the allocation of property revenue taxes for a 60-day period, which can also be extended to 90 days. That concludes my presentation, and I can respond to any questions from the council. Thank you.
If I may, Mayor, really quick, couple clarifying questions to Mr. Hitchcock's presentation. There was a comment letter submitted yesterday from Mr. Edelman of Heavenly Vale Limited Partnership. You did not receive that, but I want to make sure that's on the record. As well as the next steps, it is true we're asking council to approve authorization to commence annexation proceedings, but that application will not be made to LAFCO until further negotiations are made and had between the city and county, as well as Lake Valley Fire District, to make sure that we all know what the future revenue shares from property tax and sales tax would be to those agencies.
Great, thank you, Mr. Irvin. All right, we'll bring this back to council, open it up for questions for Mr. Hitchcock or any other questions. No, Mr. Robbins, any questions? No. Okay, I think, yeah, with that, I don't necessarily have questions. I think that, though, before we open it into public comment, it would be good to address some of what has been sent to us in the public comment, and I just want to, for the public's record, we did receive a letter talking about that the city has coerced Heavenly into a premature commitment of a vague annexation proposal. That is absolutely not the truth. We entered into this process in whole faith with Mr. Fortune. Just about 2 years ago, it was a year and a half ago that we actually approved it at council, but there was no coercing anybody. We realized we had a major problem around the Heavenly Base area, and we needed to work as partners to find solutions to that problem. And we worked diligently with our staff, coming together with Heavenly staff, and created a plan for the entire neighborhood as well as the entry in and out of Heavenly. And it was predicated that that was being done because Heavenly supported becoming part of the city of South Lake Tahoe, so that, like any other business, we could continue to support them as they would be a business in our city. What has now changed is Heavenly clearly is now opposing that. But in this letter, there are just many mistruths that I do not want the public to be confused about, and I want them to understand how we got here, and it wasn't through coercing anybody. And as well, as we can go through this process, maybe we can help understand or help Heavenly understand these benefits that I'm surprised they didn't see last year. I think the whole community did see the benefits of us coming together. Definitely the neighbors and citizens in that neighborhood definitely saw the benefits. And so I just wanted to put that on the record before we open up to public comment. But thank you, Mr. Hitchcock. And with that, Ms. Wallace?
May I add just one more thing along the same lines? That letter also makes a statement that we receive monies from the county as a pass-through, and that is just absolutely not true.
Great. All right, thank you.
Yeah, I'll second that. I saw that comment in the letter, and I was somewhat infuriated by that, saying that, you know, we get pass-through revenue from the county, and that is something that's not just untruthful, but I'm fairly certain that Vail knows that that's untruthful, which made that really infuriating to see in a public letter like that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Robbins. So with that, we'll go ahead and open this item for public comment. This is item number 15, the Heavenly Area annexation. Anybody in the room that would like to give public comment? Yes, Mr. Edelman.
Good morning, council members. Good morning, Mayor. My name is Shadar Edelman. I'm the Vice President and General Manager, Heavenly Mountain Resort. As you just mentioned, ahead of this meeting, I provided our objection letter to the proposed annexation. This should not come as a surprise. In July, I provided my view that a new layer of municipal jurisdiction over Heavenly would introduce uncertainty, requiring both the resort and the city to expend substantial time and resources with no identifiable incremental benefits to the resort, our team members, the community, or guests. Since that time, I have received no additional helpful details on this topic. The city's strategy in annexation to force our consent through the termination of a successful parking and traffic management partnership in place, updated last year and in place for at least the last 12 years. In a mutually beneficial agreement, Heavenly compensated the city for on-street parking, partnered on Ski Run Boulevard costs, and took financial and operational responsibility to create safer driving conditions with snow removal, plowing, and sanding for our team members, guests, and the community. The city is willing to negatively impact Heavenly operations, our team members, guests, and our community. It does not inspire confidence and adds to my concerns about the uncertainty of annexation. I have also heard the council reference its belief that Heavenly does not benefit our community. This is inaccurate and supported by Ski California comments that were submitted as well. Team members and guests contribute to local businesses and the economy with their spending, including a substantial amount of sales and transient occupancy taxes to the city that are dependent on Heavenly guests in our destination. Heavenly and its businesses generate more than $1 million to the city in sales tax, property tax, TOT, project contributions, and other sources. I'm incredibly proud of our work and contributions with the South Lake Tahoe partners in support of critical community challenges, including housing and education, more than $2.2 million last year to our nonprofit partners. And I'm very proud of the now terminated parking and travel management partnership that you referenced that saw Heavenly contribute over $100,000 to Ski Run Boulevard, $50,000 for on-street parking, and over $200,000 of our cost for on-street snow removal. Along with our reservation paid and carpool parking program, together We had the best results in recent memory of improving circulation and parking conditions in the resort area. The city is the partner that is making the choice to change this right now. I'm happy to discuss opportunities to continue investment in and service to our community, and none of that requires annexation. When I offered that in August, it was refused. When Heavenly offered to continue to provide safer roads and access and a higher level of plow service at no cost to the city, it was refused. Please reconsider these requests.
Since you're representing Heavenly, if you need a couple more minutes, you're more than welcome.
That brings us to today. I'm disappointed with where we are on the separate issues of annexation and doing what is right for parking, public safety, and road access to the resort and our public lands. The city has tied these issues together, taking us all a step backwards. I appreciate the constructive conversations and discussions we've been able to have with stakeholders, and I hope we can move forward together.
Mr. Adams, appreciate it. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment? Yes, just state your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Jeffrey Grell. I'm a board member for the Sitzmark Homeowners Association, and I'm going to read this little letter out for you guys. I'm writing on behalf of the Sitzmark Homeowners Association at 1510 Wildwood Avenue in South Lake Tahoe. We are the closest community to the California Lodge, and the city's decision to remove all off-site parking will impact us directly. Without the overflow parking on Saddle, Ski Run, Keller, and other streets, our little parking lot becomes a target for parking poachers from whom we are unprepared to police our lot. Inevitably, cars will park in our lot, causing unnecessary stress to our homeowners and guests. Additionally, it came to our attention that Heavenly would no longer be taking care of snow removal from Ski Run Boulevard to Needle Peak than to Wildwood Avenue. Now we have to depend on the city to provide the service, which is expensive and is often overwhelmed during winter storms. Over the years, I've seen many snow-related issues with inexperienced drivers causing gridlock on these snowy days. In turn, these road problems create health and safety issues in the event of an emergency in our community. Emergency vehicles cannot negotiate the roads. South Lake Tahoe and Heavenly Resort are one and the same. The condition the city has placed on its guests and the Heavenly Resort only hurts our community. Sincerely. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment on this item? Yes, Mr. Bindell.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Jerry Bindell, for the record, run a lodging property, and I'm just representing myself at this time. I understand the city's position as it relates to annexation. I am not here to either agree or disagree with that. I am here to ask for the city to consider Heavenly's snow removal plan for this winter. Heavenly has really come to the table for the lodging community this coming winter with bus service that will run down Ski Run Boulevard to the west, picking up properties, guests, as well as I'm sure many locals who will not have access to Heavenly because of the parking restrictions. By not plowing and not allowing Heavenly to plow, the city still does an admirable job. But on a big storm day, they will not be able to keep up with those conditions. Buses will not be able to get up those mountains. Guests will not be able to get to skiing or safely get around. So I ask that for this particular part of the process, that you consider allowing Heavenly to plow those streets during the winter season. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bindell. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, we'll go to Zoom.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 15. No additional public comments, but I did want to note that Mr. Grell has submitted a written public comment as well, and I will distribute that to council after the meeting.
All right, great, thank you. So with that, we will go ahead and bring this back to council. Anybody want to open it up, or would you like, go ahead, Ms. Wallace?
So I am, as evidenced by my votes in the past, I am 100% in favor of annexation. I think that if you're going to be a part of a community, be a part of the community. I am also willing to look at things differently or look at things separately, I should say. with the knowledge by Heavenly that when you're a part of the city, you get the friends and family discount. But with regards to parking, but if we wanted to talk about at a future meeting, because I don't believe we can talk about it at this meeting, giving them access to negotiations for parking again and or some snow removal if it works within Mr. Najad and the city manager and the city attorney for indemnification and things like that. So I would be willing to have those conversations, but with the full knowledge by Heavenly that I am still 100% in favor of the annexation.
Okay, Mr. Robbins, go.
Hold on one second, just to clarify, that is not on the agenda today, as Councilmember Wallace mentioned, so you could ask for a second to bring that back, but otherwise, we should stick to the agenda item.
Would you prefer that I do that now or at the end of the meeting?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. I will wait till the appropriate time at the end of the meeting like we always do.
Every single business in this community, every single business brings benefits and costs. Every single business. Benefits in jobs, benefits in economic development, benefits in production and supply of goods and services to residents and tourists alike. Every single business brings benefits and every single business brings costs. Those costs come in the form of police response, fire support, in the costs of roads, in the cost of public safety, trash, everything that every single business brings both benefits and costs. And the way we manage the costs of businesses in this community is by having them be part of the community and having the tax revenue they generate from sales taxes, from property taxes, flow into the community that is providing those benefits. Every single visitor to Cal Lodge travels through city streets. There is no access to Cal Lodge other than coming through the city of South Lake Tahoe in any way when a visitor arrives by vehicle or by public transit. So for Cal Lodge to not be, and for the Heavenly Resort area to not be part of the city means that they are getting the benefits of the city. If there is a fire at Cal Lodge, which is not outside the realm of possibility given that there's kitchens and food service and people galore, our fire department is going to be the first people to respond. We're not going to come at this from some jurisdictional nonsense and say, no, you have to wait for a response from the further away Lake Valley Fire District. The first engine that can get there is going to get there, and that's going to be ours. The first cops that can get there, if there's an emergency or a shooting, which is not beyond the realm of possibility, is going to come from whichever police cruiser is closest, and that can be ours. The traffic from Heavenly comes through our streets. The parking for Heavenly was on our streets. The costs incurred by the tourists that come to visit for the ski resorts in terms of law enforcement, in terms of people who drink and overconsume and who need to be managed, that almost all of that falls on the city, or a great deal of that falls on the city. Yet none of the revenue, not one dime of revenue from Cow Lodge, from Gondola Overlook, from Steins, from Tamarack Lodge, from the top of the tram, from the restaurant at the top of the tram, not one dime of that revenue, not one dime of property taxes from Cow Lodge's property has ever in the history of the city of South Lake Tahoe since its formation in 1965 gone into the city's coffers to cover the costs incurred by the Vail Resort business. That's unacceptable. It's just not acceptable to have a business that gets all of the benefits in terms of the support for the costs incurred, the cost externalities incurred by this business, and gets all of the benefits, and then have that cost borne by the entire rest of the community. Every other business, every hotel in the city, every gift shop in the city, every restaurant in the city, every ski equipment shop in the city pays sales taxes, property taxes, that fund the roads, that fund the police, that fund the fire department, except for Vail. That's not an acceptable situation that I'm willing to continue, nor is it one that I'm willing to continue supporting. This is, in effect, a fraud upon the city. It's a fraud upon the residents here that every other business bears the costs and provides the benefits, but also bears the costs. And those costs are borne by the city, except for Heavenly at Cal Lodge. That's an unreasonable situation. It should never have been in place in the first place. It was wrong for that one parcel to be excised from the city limits in the formation of the city in 1965. And that's something that needs to be corrected. And until Vail Resorts comes on board to say, yes, we're willing to not just say we're a part of the community, but be a part of the community, I'm not inclined to provide benefits to Vail to support, to provide what is functionally taxpayer subsidy to this one business, when all of the other businesses in the cities pays their share of the cost externalities of their business. It's not just about the benefits, but it's about the costs as well. And this is an unfair situation. It shouldn't be allowed to continue. And so I'm not inclined to change the situation in any way right now until Vail agrees to being brought into the city. I'm perfectly willing to discuss terms and conditions of Vail being brought into the city. I'm perfectly willing to say that if Vail is brought into the city will agree to X, Y, Z conditions. I think that's reasonable, particularly over a time span, to say that for the next X years, the city will do or not do Y or Z action. I'm willing to enter into those good faith negotiations, but we've been wanting to have those good faith negotiations with Tom Fortune for a year and a half, and it never happened. So a blanket no and a blanket I don't know what the benefits of joining the city are, that's not a position I'm willing to countenance. So my inclination is to proceed with the pre-annexation, to proceed as is, and to not change the revocation of the parking agreement and the parking management agreement or any of the other things that have been terminated for those reasons.
Great, thank you, Mr. Robbins. Yeah, so for me, I mean, largely I'm in the same place. I feel that we, have gone down this road a little over a year and a half now that we've been going through this process, and to hear, that we don't understand what annexation is, or we don't understand the benefits, and we all know Vail acquires a lot of property throughout the entire world, so you have to believe their attorneys know what annexation is and what that can provide and won't provide and those type of things. And the truth is that you pay the property tax and you pay the sales tax, and it goes now to the county. It's the same tax that would be paid. We have a little higher of a sales tax that gets paid by the consumer, not by Heavenly. So those are very simple answers. And to hear in this letter that, we are happy with the services that are being provided. Well, those services are being provided by the city. And so I guess the only place we can show you that is to not provide them. And then maybe you can see if you're still happy with it. And maybe you can reach out to the county, who is the jurisdiction you are in, and see if they want to provide those services for you. That is why we got to this point, is because these services need to be provided for the public safety, for the betterment of your guest experience, and for the residents that are in our neighborhoods that were impacted greatly as these services weren't provided. And so the bummer here is for those residents. It's frankly for the visitors and the guests that come to your resorts. That's who is being more affected. I have tried to talk with Mr. Edelman through the process of, look, if we can continue down the road of this process, there's still a ton of negotiation. The negotiation that Mr. Irvin spoke of between the county and how Lake Valley, the fire department, and those things have to happen first. Then there's a negotiation with Heavenly, which our next item is exactly what happened with Tahoe Valley Campground. We went through a negotiation with them where in the beginning they didn't support the proposal, and now we've got a supported proposal. And so if you guys were in good faith continuing down that road, and not just sending us a letter that says, we've strong-armed you and we don't support any of this, well, we probably would still be willing to go through this next year like we did last year, because we're still heading down the road. But the letter that you've sent has me at a dead stop of supporting any level of it, because I feel like if you're happy with the services you've been provided, well, maybe you need to see when those services aren't provided, how happy you and your guest are. And I hate that it's there, because again, it's not of my nature. We all want to have a great entry into Heavenly, and we would all like to, but clearly there's just not one side that's willing to work with us and, as Mr. Robbins pointed out, do what's right. This is about what is right. It is not right that your jurisdiction would need to dispatch sheriffs that have a beat from Tahoe to Christmas Valley, that they're now being dispatched into the Cal Main Lodge when we have an entire police department surrounding the Cal Main Lodge. It's not right to dispatch a fire truck out of Golden Bear when we have Fire Station 3 at Ski Run and Pioneer. That is just not right. We try to reduce vehicle miles traveled. We try to do what's best for public safety. That's exactly what this is about, and it's exactly what we should be doing, and it's you, Heavenly, that is stopping that process. So you have the right, if we move forward with this today, to change your tune and possibly come back to the table, and then maybe what Ms. Wallace proposed, if you do that, could be something I support. But at this point, until you do make that choice, I can't support that until that choice is made. But so yeah, I'm comfortable moving forward with this. I will also put it on the record that what is being proposed right now absolutely can change. It doesn't mean that this is what's set in the kind of what we're putting on the map. Just as we did, and you'll see it on the next item on our agenda, those boundaries and all of those things can absolutely be changed through the next negotiation and next process. So really, the ball is in your court, and with that, I will look for a motion.
Mayor Bass, may I add a couple clarifying
Of course.
comments? So, one thing regarding the change you referenced for the next item, the cleanup, that parcel has been taken out and is out, but the campground has come to the table saying they want to negotiate with us, potentially a pre-annexation agreement, and get to know the parties. There's a lot of history there, so we, the council and me, have agreed to amend that application. Second of all, there's comments that this is a tax grab. That is falsely, it's false. There's not a tax grab. This is an area that is bounded by city limits, only accessed through city limits, and it's a good governance proposal to actually fix a boundary that should have been done in 1965. That's the reality. Second of all, there's comments that Heavenly has given the city up to above $1 million. I think that's a questionable number, and so our finance team is evaluating what that true number is. We do recognize that there's Heavenly businesses in the village, so I want to make sure we're talking about the same correct number with regards to what contribution has come to the city. And then just to reiterate what you said, nothing that is generated outside the city limits is passed through to the city. So the comment that a portion of $2.5 million of state and county property or sales tax comes to the city is a false statement as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Irvin.
Prepared to make a motion.
Okay, go right ahead, Mr. Robbins.
But just a moment before you, I want to echo what you said about the most recent letter saying that a portion, in which Vail Resort said that a portion of the Cal Lodge revenue and property taxes go to the city. I will echo Mayor Bass's comments on that. I am very bothered by that because I can't fathom Vail Resorts not knowing that that is an untrue statement and then putting that in a public letter anyway, right? That's a lie. To say something that's untrue when it's known to be untrue is the definition of lying. And I would like to have seen these negotiations in good faith. If the negotiations were going on in good faith, I would be all supportive of continuing these agreements, 100%, just like we did when we were in negotiations with Tom Fortune. And the fact that patently understood to be untrue and untrue statements are being made in public forums is counterindicative of being an actor in good faith. So with that,
if I may, one more comment.
Yeah.
Sorry. It was said that Vail hasn't been shown the values of being a part of the city. Back in September of 23, I sent a formal letter to Mr. Fortune. I then again forwarded that to his replacement, Mr. Edelman, in October of 2024. It highlights the values of city services, our building department services, the benefits that we see as a better service than El Dorado County provides to the basin. None of those letters were returned with any ask to negotiate what the true benefit of annexation could be, like we've done with the one that's the next agenda item. So, I've gone to numerous meetings, meeting new corporate executives who fly in and meet with us, say they want to be our partner, but, talk is cheap and action is real. So that's my take on this.
and with that,
Thank you.
I move to hold a first reading by title only of an ordinance pre-zoning of 30 parcels for subsequent annexation of such parcels, and amending City Code Title 6, Chapter 6.55, Article 2, Section 6.55.120, and refer second reading and adoption to November 19th, 2024. And 2, pass a resolution amending the general plan, figure LU/1, land use diagram to show the zoning of the parcels to be annexed and expanded sphere of influence to include the annexation area. And 3, pass a resolution initiating proceedings for the annexation of such parcels.
Second.
All right, we can vote. All
That motion carries.
right, great. So we are moving on to item 16. We will wait for Ms. Cregan to come back in the room. Oh, somebody want to, Mr.
Chief Stevenson's getting it.
Great.
And while we're waiting for Councilmember Cregan, I just wanted to note for the record that item 16 is also a public hearing, so it should be in the public hearing section on the agenda. It was noticed as such.
Welcome back, Ms. Cregan. So we are on to item 16. This is the property tax revenue agreement with El Dorado County for the cleanup annexation, and this will be Ms. Stroud.
It'll actually be me, Mayor.
Oh.
So, good morning, Mayor and council members. The City Council is being asked to hold a public hearing and pass a resolution agreeing to the transfer of property tax base and the distribution of tax increment with respect to El Dorado LAFCO project number 2024-1, otherwise known as the cleanup annexation. City Council is also asked to make findings regarding the effect of the proposed transfer fees, charges, assessments, taxes, and other revenues. The cleanup annexation has been reduced from its original configuration of 90 parcels totaling 411.8 acres down to 80 parcels totaling 79 acres. Back in June of 2023, City Council by unanimous vote passed a motion providing direction to pursue the annexation of the cleanup parcels as well as the Heavenly parcel. That fiscal impact analysis that was presented to Council in June of 2023, prepared by DTA, estimated an annual cost to the city of $28,490 to provide the services for the land included in the proposed annexation. Since the cleanup annexation has been reduced in size to approximately 19% of the original acreage, it is appropriate to accept the projected amount of the property tax being transferred to the city as $12,200, which is approximately equivalent to the cost the city will incur to provide those services that we've already been providing for years upon years. Recognition of this annexation supports the fact that the city provides snow removal and public works services to those affected areas. Additionally, law enforcement and fire rescue responses are traditionally first to respond from the city. The proposed cleanup annexation has been proposed as an effort to implement good governance practices, and the city and county staff have negotiated in good faith to present the proposed tax sharing agreements to the City Council to consider for approval. I'd also like to note that as we're having this meeting, El Dorado County Board of Supervisors have the same agenda item on their agenda, and we have been compliant with our timelines to negotiate the property tax sharing agreement consistent with AB 8, and I'm available to answer any questions if you have it.
Great, thank you, Mr. Urban, appreciate that. Any questions for Mr. Urban? No. All right, great. Well, we will go ahead and open up public comment on this item for anybody in the room that would like to give public comment on item 16. Seeing none, we will go ahead and move to Zoom.
We'll open up the Zoom platform to see if anyone wants to provide public comment on agenda item 16. No public comments, Mayor.
Great, thank you. With that, we will bring it back to council for a motion. Ms. Wallace.
I would be happy to make a motion. Sorry, I should have had it up. I move that we are holding a public hearing and pass a resolution agreeing on the transfer of the property tax base and distribution of tax increment with respect to El Dorado LAFCO project number 2024-1, the cleanup annexation, and making findings regarding the effect of the proposed transfer on fees, charges, assessment, taxes, and other revenues.
Second.
All right, we can vote.
That motion carries.
Great. So with that, we will go ahead and move on to the final item of the day. This is regular new business. Item 17, the South Lake Tahoe Tourism Improvement District Annual Report for fiscal years 23 and 24. And this will be Mr. Black.
Hello, Mayor Bass and members of City Council. For the record, Andrew Black, Financial Services Supervisor. I'm just going to take a few minutes to introduce this item, then I'll turn it over to Rich Bodine with TID and Carol Chaplin and Stuart Moss from the Lake Tahoe Visitors Authority to present a video and answer any additional questions you may have. Before you today is the South Lake Tahoe Tourism Improvement District Fiscal Year 2023-2024 Annual Report, including fiscal year 2025 budget, as well as financial statements for the 12 months ended October 31st, 2023, and the 9 months ended July 31st, 2024. The South Lake Tahoe Tourism Improvement District, or SLT-TID, is a successful partnership between the city and the lodging industry. It has been in existence for approximately 18 years and is composed of lodging businesses located within the city, including hotels, motels, and vacation rentals. Services provided by the SLT-TID include marketing and promotion programs and activities designed to market the South Shore of Lake Tahoe as a unique year-round destination. The goal is to impact the South Shore economy through increased overnight stays and tourism spending. The present SLT-TID Assessment District was renewed in 2019 for a 10-year term, which will expire in December 2029. Assessment rates are currently $4 per occupied room night on hotels and motels, and $5.50 per occupied room night on timeshares, condos, duplexes, triplexes, and vacation homes under management contracts. These rates went into effect during the second year of the agreement on December 17th, 2020. An optional increase of $1 starting in the 5th year of the current term, fiscal year 24, is outlined in the management district plan to be approved at the discretion of the board. The optional increase was discussed at the January 2024 meeting, where it was tabled for discussion at a future date. There have been no changes to the agreement, boundaries are the same, and the method of assessment is the same. Between 2.7 and 3.2 million of revenue has been generated each year since 2016, with the exception of fiscal year 2020, actual collections totaling 2.2 million due to the pandemic. The TID revenue budgeted in fiscal year 2024 was 3.1 million, and budgeted revenue for current fiscal year 2025 is also 3.1 million. Approximately 63% of the budget is for marketing and promotions program. The city retains 1% of the revenues to account for administration, collections, and other financial support services. This money goes to the city's general fund and is budgeted at $31,000 for the city's fiscal year 2025. That concludes my introduction, and I will pass it over to LTVA for their presentation.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Black. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Rich Bodine. I'm the current chair of the SLT-TID. It's been an exciting year for the TID. We started out 2024 with a new board, which just kind of organically was a perfect representation of the properties in our city. We have 2 members from the 1 through 50 category, 2 members from the 51 to 90 category, 2 members from 91 through 130, and then 2 members from 131 and up, and then 1 member from timeshare property management. We had a good year as far as room nights go, especially once Margaritaville came back online at the end of 2023. So it was about December 2023 they opened up at full capacity. June came ahead about 10% ahead of budget. July was a little bit down, but we just received August the other day, and August came in at about 5% ahead of budget. So we should finish up 2024 or fiscal year 2024 pretty much right at that 3.1 million, possibly a little bit ahead. We did submit our fiscal year 2025 budget, we did just do a 1% increase, just to kind of stay in line with what we've been seeing. We're hoping that, consumer confidence might come back after whatever happens today, one way or another, with the elections. The biggest thing this year is we did modify our bylaws last month to kind of solidify those categories to make sure we have a nice diverse representation of our lodging properties. So we did kind of get that into the bylaws to maintain that we will have two members from each category plus one timeshare property management. That's pretty much all I've got. So I guess I will hand it off to Carol.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and City Council members, City Manager, and all of the staff. Appreciate you giving us time this morning to kind of give you a recap of what we've been doing this last year. I always get to have a good time and show you a video, a little bit of inspiration for what we have been doing this last year, and then Stuart and I will answer any questions.
1 second, I'm going to ask, when you're ready for the video, just let me know. I do need IT to come in and assist with that.
Okay, we're ready.
Oh, you're ready for them now. If I could have IT in the City Council chambers, please.
We always like to
Hey,
involve staff.
Alex, can you please drag the the video from the podium to the whiteboard over there? I can play it, but it only plays for me. It should be that little, here, I'll close it. It should be the LTVA icon with the little.
There we go. Thank you.
Oh, but it's not.
How do we sum up the last year for Visit Lake Tahoe? It was awe, and then some.
I'm going to pause it until we can get it moved to the other screen.
There we go.
Thank you so much.
The world
Another
doesn't
great
turn
year
without
for
IT.
Visit Lake Tahoe. It was all about attracting our visitors to experience the South Shore of Lake Tahoe while expanding our sustainability messaging and promoting year-round events. With the help of all of our owned, earned, and paid efforts, we saw an increase in total partner referrals, paid media referrals, organic traffic, paid social sessions, and total media impressions. We continue to use an always-on integrated campaign, all to support our local economy in shoulder season, as well as peak travel times. With an increased paid media budget and a data-driven approach, we focused on reaching the right visitors in drive and fly markets who will stay longer, spend more, and do it respectively. Through public relations, we had exposure in 21% of the top 150 desirable outlets. We also hosted digital influencers, which led to the generation of 42 pieces of content. Some of our national coverage included Operation Sierra Storm, Barstool's Pardon My Take, and Jimmy Fallon and DJ Khaled's Cardigan Classic. We kicked our sustainability-focused marketing efforts into high gear. Enter the 5 rules to Lake Vibe. 5 ways to practice responsible tourism at Lake Tahoe, and the basis of our sustainability campaign efforts. We launched Rules for Lake Vibe through emails and landing pages, and saw the highest open rate of any of our email campaigns of the year. Our Fill It Forward water bottle initiative provided over 23,000 refillable water bottles to visitors at 42 lodging properties and 11 events in order to support the new City of South Lake Tahoe's single-use plastics ban. We also ran a successful 4th of July sustainability campaign in association with the Destination Stewardship Council, encouraging visitors and locals alike to follow the 5 rules during the busy holiday weekend. And it's safe to say, this campaign was a hit. The Rules to Lake By Facebook campaign held the highest engagement rate of the year. We were honored by our industry at several events. Our Rules to Lake By campaign was awarded the Zartico Data Hero Award, recognizing how it has changed people's behavior when they're enjoying the region's natural beauty. And our integrated Awe and Then Some marketing campaign also won the prestigious U.S. Travel Association's Esto Destiny Award, as well as Visit California's Poppy Award, recognizing creativity and effectiveness in tourism marketing. And we can't talk about the past year without mentioning the Tahoe Blue Event Center. Opened on September 2nd, 2023, the Tahoe Blue Event Center began hosting concerts, conventions, and everything in between, bringing in a ton of attendees to the area. Some notable industry shows hosted at the Tahoe Blue Event Center include DMA West Education, Travel Nevada's Rural Roundup, and Go West. Then came the Night Monsters. The ECHL professional hockey team continued to build excitement and momentum heading into their inaugural season. They're set to play their 36 home games at the Tahoe Blue Event Center. And we once again reached billions through the American Century Championship, while also contributing $75,000 back to the community. And then we started to look ahead. We will continue to promote sustainable tourism through our 5 rules to Lake By, continue implementing our organization's strategic plan, invest in a 2.0 version of the Visit Lake Tahoe website, roll out a special event strategy to support year-round travel and foster community, including a full slate of events to promote for the Tahoe Blue Event Center. And we'll develop and roll out the next iteration of the Awe and Then Some marketing campaign. Let's continue sharing the things that make Lake Tahoe awe and then some.
Well, hopefully that's a little bit of a lighter version of what you have in your packet. So we just wanted to condense that. I just want to bring to your attention that our mayor here is on the LTVA board and represents the city in that capacity. We really appreciate all of Mr. Bass's contributions to that effort, and we've seen a lot of wonderful things come out of the LTVA this year, including what you've seen on the in that little video. And with that, I'll open it up to questions.
Great, thank you so much, Ms. Chaplin. Any questions before we go to public comment? Sure, Mr. Robbins.
The Property and Business Improvement District Law of 1994 specifically authorizes tourism improvement districts to fund paid staff for cleanup and beautification projects. How many dollars has the TID or the LTVA spent on paid cleanup for staff after the July 4th holidays on our beaches?
Well, I don't know that I have a number of paid hours for you, Mr. Robbins. I mean, we did participate with, as you heard in the video, the Destination Stewardship Council. We participated in a campaign that reached a lot of our visitors that were coming into the area.
But the number of paid staff doing beach cleanup is how much? Is it zero?
Well, we actually participate with the League to Save Lake Tahoe and their Blue Crew as
Those are
staff.
volunteers, yep.
So we have a volunteer
And how many
program?
paid staff has the TID or the
Yes.
LTVA funded?
Mr. Robbins, we're taking into, it's just not on the agenda, but I can answer this. This is a volunteer effort that's done by a lot of organizations, I believe even our city, but we don't pay for somebody to go to a volunteer effort. It wouldn't be expected, because then you've got people paid and people that are volunteering. It's a volunteer effort that happens from.
So why has the Tourism Improvement District or the LTVA have they ever considered using TID funds to pay staff for beach cleanup rather than relying on local volunteers to do it?
We don't rely completely on volunteers to do it. We all, as staff, we participate in some of those activities. And we have,
Unpaid, so those are volunteers. So has the TID...
They're on a payroll. They're salaried staff, sir.
So you are paying for staff to go do beach cleanup, is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, can we get a number
I
of dollars
don't know
spent
that-
on that?
I don't know that I can really do that. I can get you the number of hours.
That'd be good. I would appreciate
For the
that.
last year.
Yeah, of paid staff that are being paid for doing beach cleanups, that is, they're being paid while they're doing beach cleanups.
And I have to clarify that it wouldn't be just beach cleanup. We have, through the Blue Crew program, we have a designated area that we participate
Yeah, it would
in
be the
cleaning up.
beaches, the other wild areas, things like that. Yeah, I would love the number of staff hours if that's available. I would like
would
that
also
very much.
just
Yeah,
point
not
out to
today,
you,
but definitely.
Mr. Robbins, for this last year, there was a very successful effort in my mind from what we saw at the beaches through in my opinion, a lot of the messaging that did come out of LTVA that really made a massive improvement from year after year. So I think those efforts have truly paid off in a better way, that the fact is people that are coming here have realized that they need to pack it in, pack it out, leave no trace. Those things are happening, and I think that's there's a contribution from LTVA to that effort with no doubt. I sit on the board and have watched the shift in the messaging, and I think it's had an effect.
Yeah, and Mr. Mayor, if I might add something to that, as far as the beach cleanup effort that you were referring to, that was kind of directed at Zephyr Shoals because of last year's issues. That was about 8,000 pounds of trash that was left on the beach 2 years ago. There were 2,000 pounds last year. That was a lake-wide effort. This wasn't something that one organization could achieve by themselves. Sure. But our advertising campaign was specifically initiated to, make a difference on the South Shore.
If you could provide the number of paid staff hours
Sure.
that were assigned to cleanup activities particularly on the July 5th, but also just generally would be fine. Say, could that be done by the end of next week? Would that be possible?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Robbins, and thank you, Ms. Chaplin. I do have a question, but I think it's more for Mr. Black, and you may not know it, so if you don't have this, no worries. I was just looking at our revenue from this year out of TID and then trying to go back. There's constantly kind of a thing of we're up or we're down, and the TID revenue in particular, because it's by the room night rather than the average daily rate, really can answer some of those questions to our community. And it would be cool as we do this maybe next time to kind of have those historical years like in our report. But I just went back into searching in our agendas, and it seems like this year 3.1 million of total collections, from what I can find, is basically the highest number we've ever been at. Do you know? And if you don't know offhand, not a worry, but I'm just curious because that can kind of tell us. We have a lot of people saying we're way, way down on the amount of rooms that we're renting since, for instance, Measure T came into effect. But these numbers tell a much different story. And I just think because when we look at our TOT revenue, just for the public's efficacy, that is by the average daily rate because our TOT is charged on the rate. But this revenue is actually the same. It's by the number of rooms that are rented every year. So sorry to catch you guys off guard. I should have asked you this yesterday.
No worries. I think I can answer this question. So in the past several years, the occupancy varied, obviously, and the rates have been increasing. However, they are stabilizing, and we're seeing a small decrease. From what I'm seeing in terms of the TID and the revenue, it has been slowly decreasing, like between 3 million and 3.1 million. It was 3.1 million in 2023, and just a little bit below that in 2022. But it has been pretty stable, around $3 million, maybe just a couple of hundred before the COVID time, but it's been always around the same amount, if that helps.
Okay, great. And I was looking back, I think it's like 20, and this may be a COVID thing, 2020, we were at like 2.2,
Yes,
and that's probably just because the COVID
that
closures.
was due to closures, yes.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Great.
Actually, can I just follow up on your
Sure.
comment there? Because I actually agree with that. It would be good if in future reports, and I don't know if you need a second for this, but just in future reports, if you could provide a historical record of TID total collection amounts going back 5-10 years, something like that. The data is available. It just would be nice to have that in future reports as just an extra data point.
Great.
We can do that.
Thank you.
Agreed. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Have a
Good
good
stuff.
rest of your day.
Yes. Final item. We're almost out of here before noon. This is a record. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We do need to take public comment on this item. So anybody in the room? Yes, Mr. Bendel.
For the record, Jerry Bendel, I'm not the chair of the TID, so I have to speak in the public comment sectors now. A couple items, one to answer Mr. Robbins, some other areas that the LTVA and the TID contribute to from the city's perspective is the ambassador program, the city's ambassador program to the tune of $10,000. We give that dollar for dollar. Those ambassadors, I'm certain, go through and assist with the beach cleanups as well as general guest services for participants, for guests and locals alike. We are a title sponsor for the Live at Lakeview Commons, which is by large a more local event, but we contribute a sizable amount of money towards that event too, which then flows through to perhaps some beach cleanup as well, Ms. Chaplin. We'll get you the numbers that you were asking for, but these are other areas. The one I really wanted to talk about that was brought up in the presentation was the Tahoe Blue Event Center. I think of all the things that this community has seen in recent years, and the next one's going to be the new recreation center, is this Tahoe Blue Event Center. It has brought our community together. It has brought our visitors to South Shore to a level we have not seen before in the off-season, filling California rooms. It is Nevada costs filling California rooms, and we have to understand that we are one community here, and this is one of those cases that prove it time and time again. I spoke just a little while ago about Heavenly and my opinions on what we should be doing. I understand from a strategic standpoint how we're a little recalcitrant on that, but I think remembering that we are one community and remembering that throughout this process is so important, because that Tahoe Blue Event Center not only is bringing tax-based tax revenue to the city of South Lake Tahoe's coffers, but it is bringing our community together for these events, for the hockey games, and for even local nonprofit events. So it's a wonderful, wonderful experience. So thank you for continuing to think that as we work through what seems to be a somewhat challenging process. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bendel. Anybody else in the room? Yes, Mr. Mosier.
Ed Moser, South Lake Tahoe. Yes, the previous speaker's comment, if you recall, they were actually supposed to help build the event center and conference center where the hole is, and managed not to get some things passed through the Nevada State Legislature to allow them to build or to contribute. But anyway, that ended up pulling out of that deal, so we got a hole in the ground. They got an event center. Yeah, I would like to see, a couple of things see in a report here. And would like to see them, LTVA, implement in their marketing campaign a Bring Your Own Bike, a BYOB program. Get people to bring their bikes up, and as they don't come up here and rent and wreak havoc on e-bikes and e-scooters. It'd be a lot more pleasant experience. You're losing a lot of nice tourists due to the scooters and bikes and traffic here. So if you can encourage people to bring their own bike, they have it. They don't have to drive to the other end of town or something to rent it. And also have places to park it, have more bike racks around the tourist areas. In accordance with the Property and Business Improvement District Law of 1994 here. Also, it says you can, under activities, this is the definitions, 36606, promotion of tourism within the district. It has a list of all the way A to F of what you can do. Promotion of public events, furnishing music in public places, blah, blah, blah. And also on under definitions 36610, under the definition of improvement, it says means the acquisition, construction, installation, or maintenance of any tangible property with an estimated useful life of 5 years or more, including but not limited to the following, and there's 12 of them. First one is parking facilities. And then also closing, opening, widening, or narrowing of existing streets. And also K, ramps, sidewalks, plazas, and pedestrian malls. So I've been asking for years, and it's really important now for, I think, at least $1 million a year of this $3 million go towards infrastructure improvements. We're having to spend a lot of money and get government money and grants to do Park Avenue, State Line Avenue, Lakeshore Boulevard alone, just in that part of town. And contributing $1 million or so a year could speed up the process and improve things here and speed up the process by 10 to 15 years. And it'd be great. People don't have to walk in the middle of the street in winter and in summer and get darn near run over and splashed. So that's, the biggest thing I would like to see done here and change made. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Anybody else in the room that would like to give public comment on this item? Seeing none, we will move to Zoom.
We'll open up our Zoom platform for anyone who wants to provide public comment on agenda item 17. I do see one hand raised. Ms. Soderston.
Yes, thank you. I guess it's still morning. Melissa Soderton, South Lake Tahoe. I know it feels wonderful to win awards, but awards do not improve the quality of life for our tourists or our community, and they certainly do not improve the health of the lake. We keep spending money on the same revamped campaign over and over, year after year. Millions of dollars are spent towards telling people not to litter. People know they're not supposed to litter, at least the vast majority of our tourists. What we need is garbage cans and people out there cleaning up the trash. I agree with Mr. Mosier that we need bike racks, we need more accessible pedestrian access, we need to be focusing on things that actually improve the quality of life and not focusing on billboards and ad campaigns to tell people not to litter. They already know that. Leave No Trace has been, for years we've had that around. We all know not to litter. The problem, and if you talk to the tourists, the problem is that there is nowhere to throw their trash away. And it's windy, so trash blows away. We need people out there on the ground cleaning up the trash, not sitting in fancy offices. Thank you.
All right, thank you. There's no additional public comments at this time, Mayor.
Great. All right, so with that, I think we are good to go. We don't have, this is just a receive and file, so thank you.
Mayor, may I make one comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt. Just want to give credit where credit's due. The SLT TID, 13% of their total budget is for special events. And I know that they focus on regional events that bring in a large amount of people, but they also have been really giving a keen eye to local events that the city's sponsoring, and I appreciate that support and look forward to working with TID going forward on making sure that it's a robust program of events, whether that be drawing heads and beds or supporting our local residents.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Irvin. Awesome. With that, we will go ahead and move on to our agenda planning calendar, item number 18, and this will also be Mr. Irvin.
APC?
Yep, sorry.
Next meeting is 5/19th. There's quite a few items on there from Development Services that'll be good, that have been on council's radar. But just to highlight one, the lease to locals policy change discussion will come back. Also an exciting one that Parks and Recreation's bringing forward is our public art PSA. This was mentioned earlier. The money the council appropriated through ARPA funds is finally going to be awarded to a contractor to build an art piece. And then two items I want to highlight under Public Works, speed limit adoption change for local roads and designation of safety corridors. This has to do with AB 43 that we've talked about a while back, and residential parking permit program for Lakeside Park Association. That's all I have, Mayor.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Irvin. All right. Any council members that want to talk about anything on the APC? Awesome. Seeing none, we will go ahead and move on to updates and announcements, and we'll start with Ms. Stroud.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So last Friday, November 1st, the court in the Measure T lawsuit did rule on the parties' motions for summary judgment and denied both parties' motions, which means we are set for trial on November 27th.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Stroud. Mrs. Blankenship.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to note for the public that we are currently soliciting for city council representatives to 3 boards or commissions, and we're also soliciting for all 5 city council appointed commissions and boards. So if everyone, or if anyone would like to apply, we do have those applications available on the city's website.
Good.
Or you can call the city clerk, and I'd be happy to help.
Thank you. Mr. Urban.
Yeah, just two items to note. On Thursday, November 7th, this week, we'll be hosting EOC drill in this council chamber. Fire Chief Jim Drennan has been working with El Dorado County partners, so city staff and their assignments will be practicing what we need to make sure we practice at least once a year to ensure we stay sharp on activating our EOC and responding and recovery of incidents. And then Friday, I'll be heading down to Douglas County to meet with the Douglas County manager to hear what it is their goals are related to transit. I'll report back.
Great. All right, let's see. So with that, we will go ahead and move on to council member reports and comments, and we'll start with Ms. Cregan.
I really have nothing. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Mr. Robbins.
I have nothing. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Wallace.
I have had no meeting since the last meeting, but I do have 2 coming up. So the next meeting will be a reporting meeting.
All right. Let's see. I actually have nothing. My only message is go and vote.
Yes.
The meeting is adjourned.
Right on.